Okay, so now I'm sewing through all the layers, and if your machine has a function for needle down, I would highly recommend you use that, because every time you stop and start, look what happens. Your needle is going to stay in your machine and it's going to help you to sew accurately. So it's a great way to also teach yourself to sew accurately, because you really have to watch what you're doing. So I'm just going quite slowly, and I'm using the edge of my presser foot as a guide. Okay, so depending on what size the binding is that you're working with, you might have to use other tools for marking. And I'm just using very high contrast fabric and thread. So I've got really bright neon stitches on here, so any boo-boos I make will be very obvious. Not good for my sewing ego, but anyway. Right, so basically I've now sewn through all the layers. I've joined the binding to my fabric, to my garment, and as you can see, my bright neon stitches are very clearly visible on the right side. And on this side, ooh, my machine made a tiny little blurb there. On this side, you'll see it's much more important to have consistent, nice, neat distance from the edge than it is on the wrong side, because on the wrong side you're not going to really look in there. Okay, and I've also got a darker color here, but you'll see if you look closely here and there, I've gone very close to the edge. So that's something that takes quite a bit of practice to get really good at. And I always say to people, I introduce this technique really early on because it really raises the bar for your sewing. It's going to make you sew very accurately, and it's going to hone your skills for accuracy and for really paying attention to the detail. Okay, so this is a straight edge. There's going to be some more techniques where you're going to do it on a curve, convex and concave curves. And if you look inside the tutorials that I've made for that, there'll be more close-up pictures on that and steps. Okay, but for now, these are the most basic steps. Start with the right sides together, stitch a little bit to the right of the crease, then fold the bias tape over the raw edge, press it, pin it in place, and then stitch through all the layers on the bias tape. So you're not sewing on the garment, you're sewing through the bias tape through all the layers. And if you look at this, you'll notice there's 2 layers on this side and 2 layers there. So in fact, we're sewing through 5 layers of fabric when we're applying this method. And that's a good precursor to how waistbands are attached, and also how cuffs are attached on shirts and collars. Okay, so there's a lot of uses for this kind of application of things, because you'll repeat this a lot in many other garment types. So best to get good at bias very early on.